What's going on, guys? FlyBy Simulations here, and welcome back to yet another video on the channel. As the title and thumbnail suggests, today's video is going to entirely focus on Nvidia Colour Filters to be able to make your sim look amazing. Now, I have personally 5 great color filters that I have compiled that I've been using for the past 4 odd years that have now been tailored to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 as well, that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. On top of that, I'm also going to be teaching you guys how to download a free ICC color profile for your individual monitors to be able to make them very color accurate. Now, right out of the box, your monitors actually don't come with 100% color accuracy. In fact, you need to buy a calibration device that you need to hook onto your monitors to be able to calibrate them successfully. But since not everybody has that, we can download a profile directly from the internet for free and then put it into your color management software on Windows entirely for free, and then that should boost your color accuracy on your monitor for supported applications. So with that all out of the way, let's get into everything Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 right after this quick sponsored segment. Awesome is a free-to-download application software from macOS, Windows, and Android that allows you to remotely control your PC using your phone. As can be seen here, I can monitor my flight, control the cameras, and even move things around as needed without having to be anywhere near my monitor. As a content creator, I get great peace of mind when I can monitor the status of my video being rendered on my editing software, and having the ability to upload videos to YouTube without physically being at my desk or computer is an absolute godsend. The app does allow keyboard customization as well as mouse support, and can also support games up to 144 FPS. So log on to the link in the description section of the video to see all of their expanded payment plans, including a pluggable device that can wake up your PC remotely. Once again, that's Awesome Remote, and you can find out more by clicking on the link in the description section of the video. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my desktop. I feel like I see you guys here more often than in the simulator these days. But anyways, as I said, today the first thing we're going to do is actually learn how to download that ICC color profile to bring all of our monitors to a similar standard. The process to do this is pretty simple. You first go into your settings, and then you want to go into your display settings. So search up display in this window, and you can then simply go into the display settings here. Then go down to advanced display, and here is where you can see the exact model number of your monitor, which you're going to need in just a bit. So copy this or just memorize it, whatever you guys see fit. Then open up your browser. Now that you're on the browser, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and search up tinged.com, essentially ratings.com. This company actually reviews many tech products, and I actually often read their reviews and stuff like that as well. But for the purposes of our video, what they also do is they review monitors and upload color accurate profiles that we can download. So what we want to do is, if you guys remember that model number of your TV or your monitor, you need to paste that over here now. So if you guys can remember, mine was the VG27AQL1A, so I'm just going to go ahead and type that in, VG27AQL1A. And as you can see, the Asus TUF monitor review is available here. So this is a pretty long and thorough read. If you guys want to see a detailed review of your monitor, you guys can go ahead and do that here. They rank multiple things, but what we need is the ICC profile. So all you want to do is hit Control F to find something on the page and hit ICC. And that should take you to the ICC profile download. Now, I don't know if all monitors ever built are reviewed by rtings.com, but if you have a popular TV or monitor, it should be under rtings.com's umbrella per se. So if you can't find the ICC profile, simply search up the model name of your TV and just type ICC profile in Google. Maybe you will get a reputable link from where you can download the same profile. So next up, simply go ahead and download this profile. And just quickly showing you the impact of what this can do. As you can see, pre-calibration, my particular monitor has a score of 6.4 out of 10, but after using their calibration software and their calibration devices, they've managed to get the color accuracy up to 9.7 out of 10. So you will definitely notice this change once you apply it to Windows in select applications. Does Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 completely take advantage of this? I don't know. I'm not a color expert, but I've been doing this for other games in the past and other applications that I use, such as my editing application, Adobe Premiere Pro, and it works wonders. So this is just a general tip for you folks. Alrighty folks, so now that you've downloaded the color profile, all you want to do is hit the start button and search up color management and open it up. It's a proprietary Windows service. You don't have to download anything else anymore. So now you're here, it should recognize that your generic monitor is over here. You should also ideally have your GPU over here. So everything you have is there. All you want to do is hit add, and then simply go to browse and go ahead and select the actual profile that you just downloaded from wherever you downloaded it. Mine was under the downloads folder, but yours could have been anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and download this and say add. Once that's done, all you want to do is make sure that the use my settings for this device box is checked here. And then the final thing you want to do is go into advanced and make sure that the use Windows display calibration is also checked. Now, as you can see, this is grayed out. So if yours isn't checked, which it should be, but if it isn't, you can quickly change it by simply going here and hitting change system defaults and then navigating over to advanced and then going ahead and changing it here. So here, the use Windows display calibration is actually clickable, so you can go ahead and manipulate it. So make sure that this is checked, close it, close this, and that's pretty much it. Now, you're not going to notice anything right off the bat on your desktop because your desktop isn't actually one of those supported applications I was talking about that can actually take advantage of your color profile. But some of the recommended applications that I know of are the native Photos app in Windows, which is now fully color compatible, as well as Adobe Premiere Pro and several of these professional gaming and other applications that you might come across. With that all being said, before moving on to NVIDIA filters, there's one more step that we need to do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is to make sure that your driver is up to date. And to do that, you want to go into Geforce Experience. So most of you should already have this application downloaded on your computers by default. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, that's how you update your drivers and everything like that. Now, a quick note on this NVIDIA app that I know a lot of people have been talking about. I've personally stayed away from it because I know that there are certain settings under the NVIDIA control panel that haven't fully migrated over to this app. I'm just waiting for that to happen, and then I will upgrade to the NVIDIA app. But for now, I'm just going to say not now, and it should open up Geforce Experience, and this is kind of what it should look like for you as well. What you want to do is you want to go over to the top left section, go onto the drivers section, and make sure that you hit check for updates and ensure that you have the latest game ready drivers. So this is extremely important. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 has just come out. It's only been a week. And if you don't have the latest game-ready driver, you won't be able to access the in-game, in-sim Nvidia Colour Filters. So make sure that you have the latest game-ready drivers installed. If you do have the latest game-ready drivers installed and you can't work the Nvidia filters anyway, what you want to do is you want to click this little button right here and say reinstall driver. Once you do that, restart the PC and then try Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and the corresponding steps that we're going to cover then and see if that works. That's just a little tip for those of you guys that this isn't working for, but if none of that works, look at the comment section of the video. There's going to be a lot of helpful people down there from my experience in the past. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and fire up Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and I'll explain everything else there. Alrighty folks, welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first thing I want you to do as soon as you get into the sim to be able to see whether your color filters are working or not before we get into an actual situation to test it out is to simply hit Alt F3 on your keyboard, and that should bring up all of these game filters for you. As you can see, we have the option of going through 3 filters at any one point of time, and as you can see, we have these assigned. I'll be going into more detail as to what's included in these in just a second. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the scene that we're going to be experimenting with. As you can see, we are here at near Tokyo Haneda International Airport, and the reason I've chosen this place is because it has a good amount of actual city light, so we can actually see the night lighting in the evening. We also have some mountains over there in the distance, as well as obviously this beautiful water body here. So there's quite a bit happening in this scene, and usually when I also encourage other people to try out their NVIDIA filters, I'll usually recommend picking a place like this or Vancouver, as we chose in MSFS 2020, that has a bunch of these things where you can actually test this. So at the moment, if I hit Alt F3, you'll see that I have my game filters actually turned off. So let's show you guys what my first game filter is. And here you go, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, as soon as you press that and you have all of these things selected, it changes everything. So really quick, if you've never used NVIDIA filters before, it's super simple. All you have to do is when you initially select number 1, these 3 things will not be there. This will be completely blank. All you have to do is say add filter. All of my filters have the same 3 things. You'll have color, you'll have brightness, contrast, and you will have details. And these are the values that I'm using. So for color, I have it set to tint color 0, tint intensity 0, and temperature to -22 with a vibrance of -14. I like my sim to be a little cooler instead of being on the warmer side of things. Now, MSFS 2024 really isn't that bad when it compares to MSFS 2020, for example, where the cooler tone was really required. But I quite like this muted tone for some phases of flight. For example, if I really just want to chill and fly around, there are some times where I really want to fly with snow on the ground, and this really does a good job with that. So every single one of my filters has a purpose to it, which I will attempt to walk you through as well. So those are my color settings. As for my brightness and contrast settings, this is what I have. I have the exposure that I have not touched. It's at 0. I have the contrast set to 34% just to make things a little bit more punchier, especially when it comes to these little parts right here. As you can see, highlights is set to 54% to get those sunrises and like the sunlight coming from behind the clouds and everything emanating properly. That's what the highlights does, as I can show you. So if I move this, as you can see, the clouds become brighter or dimmer depending on what I'm trying to do here. So 54% is what I have set right there. Shadows is set to 70%. Now this is what makes a huge impact. If I move these shadows settings around, as you can see, the actual crispness and the actual punchiness of the colors on these trees, the buildings, the shadows and everything like that obviously does make a huge difference. So I have that turned up quite on the high end of things, because against the backdrop of this muted kind of color scheme, the shadows being really punchy really adds to that depth effect, and I really like that. Gamma I have turned up to 22% as well. This also just affects the general brightness as well as just the overall look of the sim. So if I turn that to minus 100%, that's what it looks like. On the top end of things, it's very oversaturated. So I have it somewhere in the middle where it kind of looks like daytime. You could have these colors and these light shafts bouncing around. It's very realistic. And finally, under the details section, you can see that I have my sharpening set to 0% because I like the current sharpening that I have going on in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 graphics settings, which I will also make a video on. If you guys want to, down in the comment section below, let me know and I'll make a graphics settings video. Clarity I have set to 40%, HDR toning I have set to 10, and bloom I have set to 15. So with that all said, let's take a look at what this looks like in different weather conditions, night, dawn, dusk, and everything like that as well. Alright, so that is what a sunset with this filter looks like with this muted color tone. As you can see, you can still see the lights and everything like that starting to come up in Tokyo, and at the same time you can see that beautiful pink and orange hue in the distance. As we progress the sunset, you'll also see that the orange isn't very oversaturated, which is in stark contrast to what I'm about to show you next with my next filter. The orange is not really that saturated. So in colder countries and in colder weather conditions, this might be perfect. So I actually use all of these filters that I'm about to show you, and I don't just resort to one of them because I record different types of content and I think everything has a mood and a theme, but you might just want to settle on one of them if you like it, and I personally think number 1 is pretty good. Now on the complete opposite end of things, as you might have noticed, our color filter 2 is completely on the vibrant, punchy side of things. So as you can see, as soon as I start that, everything is on the warmer side of things. The blues are bluer, the purples are a little purpler, if that's a word. The greens in the grasslands and everything that you can see here are also pretty bright, and this is what color filter 2 looks like. As you can see, everything has a place. If you're flying in warmer countries, especially like Hong Kong, Singapore and all, I really like using color filter 2. So these are my values, and I'll keep this short now because you guys already know what each of these settings does. Tint color and tint intensity doesn't change. Temperature is down to -12 as compared to -22, which I believe I had for my previous one. And the vibrance is now up. Instead of being down at -14% for that muted look, it's now up to 34%, so you can really see these colors really punch and pop out. When it comes to brightness and contrast, I've still kept the exposure to 0%, but in this case, instead of having the contrast be higher, I've actually dialed the contrast down, so you guys can see the difference in the evening as well as the night in a second when I show it to you. Highlights is set to 16%, shadows is set to 62%. I always like the shadow count to be relatively high because I think it accentuates the details behind certain things, as you can see. So all of this stuff down here, the water bodies, as well as what you can see in the distance and the clouds casting shadow on the different surfaces, it's all very defined if you turn these shadows up. So I personally like that a lot. The gamma setting also I have set to 0% because I didn't want to mess with that. I didn't want artificial blooming happening. And finally, I also have the details here, which are set to 20% on the sharpen because I like a sharpened image with this. It's vibrant, it's punchy. Clarity set to 56%, HDR toning to 48, and bloom to 9. And that should give you a good indication of what this sunset looks like. There you go. As you can see, it's very punchy, it's very bright. In colder countries, you might not see this as much. I guess in warmer countries and tropical countries, you might see this a lot. But once again, this has a place. And in complete pitch darkness, you can see that vibrance really coming to life. You can start to see that every single light here is very orange as compared to having that whitish, that yellowish hue. It's all very orange, very, very bright. A lot of reflection and light being casted onto the clouds here as well. And that's just what Filter 2 demands, and it has a place in my cinematic content. Next up then, I have Filter 3, which, as you might have noticed, is a middle ground between Filter 1 and Filter 2. So it's not as muted as Filter 1, but it's also not as sharp as Filter 2. So Filter 3 kind of looks like that. So if you can see, I'm just going to compare. Filter 1 is very muted, Filter 2 is very punchy, and Filter 3 is kind of in the middle. It kind of does... It's like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. I'm just going to give you a quick glance here just so you guys can see what it looks like. Alrighty, folks, so these are the values that you guys have been waiting for. Color is set to 39% and 20% on the intensity. So this is the first time I actually experimented with the colors instead of having them both be at 0 and 0. I actually wanted the colors to be a little muted without actually compromising on the contrast. So temperatures, again, -12 because I like the cooler side of things. Vibrance is set to 20. And on the brightness contrast, we have 0% on exposure. It says -1, but it was ideally 0. Contrast is 0. Highlights are set to 15%. Shadows are 34. Once again, always have these shadows on the higher side of things. Personally, it makes a huge difference to me, and I really like it like that. And gamma is set to 10% as well. Details. Sharpen is now set to 50%, so if you can see, if I go further up into the sky, you'll start to see that certain textures down there still seem very, very sharp, and the reason for that is actually because I have Sharpen set to 50%. Clarity is also set to 20%. It does mess with your color as much as it gives your background visuals a little bit of clarity as well, but you have to keep in mind that it does mess with the colors. HDR toning is set to 10%, and bloom is set to 5%, so that is what image profile number 3 looks like. I hope you guys like it. This is personally my favorite if I had to choose sides. All of these guys are like heavily worked on by me and I really like them all, but I think if I had to just pick one and if I didn't have time to choose between them, I'll just go for Profile 3 because it's like as I said before, it's a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. So this is what the sunset looks like. Let's go ahead and move the camera. As you can see, not as bright and punchy as number 2, but also not as muted as number 1. There we go. That's before the sunset happens, and there's the sunset. And there is the color of the sunset in the distance as well. The lights are starting to come on. As you can see, it is once again orange, but it's not too orange like number 2. And there's the full night. As you can see, even the clouds don't look as orange as before. They're still whitish. They maintain that kind of grayscale appearance as they used to before. But the added intensity of the shadows kind of makes these little areas that you would have otherwise had fully illuminated, like little fields and stuff like that, which I personally really don't like Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024's lighting at night. They have to fix it. I think it helps alleviate that problem a little bit, especially high above the sky when you're cruising above these sort of terrain features and stuff like that. Next up, 2 special cases, filters 4 and 5 coming up now. Alrighty folks, so if you ever wanted an ultra muted version of filter 1, well, this is what you have as a result of that. So this is an ultra muted filter where, as you can see, even the skies are super muted. Everything about this filter is practically just it's extremely muted and it goes against every single one of my rules. But that being said, I do find use for this in very, very odd, really weird case scenarios. For example, if it's extremely overcast conditions and everything is super dark, somehow this filter really makes things stand out and really makes things super beautiful. I can't really show it to you because it's only in certain circumstances, which is why I don't have it as part of my regular 3 filter roster, and I just have these settings on the side, which I'm just about to show you guys. And this is what I have set up. So details, sharpen 0, clarity 42%, HDR toning 10, and bloom 15. Pretty standard stuff right there. Then we have brightness on contrast. For this, as you can see, it's as dead of a filter as you can get. The exposure is 0, contrast is 0, highlights is barely turned up to 30%, shadows goes against my rule of having it higher. It's lower this time, so it accentuates light and it basically doesn't allow you to feel like there's any darkness in little pockets, which somehow works for those overcast conditions I'm talking about. Gamma is set to 0% as well. And finally, color. As you can see, there's practically no major changes, but I have the temperature dialed way down. So it's very cool temperatures, lots of blues, lots of purples, -27.6%. Tint color and tint intensity is the same as what I had on Profile 3 with 34% and 20% on the color and intensity respectively. And vibrance is also obviously turned down for that muted effect instead of being high for that punchy effect. Now, just to give you guys a bit of a perspective as to how muted this really is, you guys have to see what the sunset and the evening looks like. It practically looks grayscale. So look at that. That is the sunset. There's basically no color in the sun. Once again, super edge case scenarios. I told you I was going to show you 5 profiles, and I do definitely use this for certain screenshots, certain edge case scenarios, as I was mentioning. And at night, this basically just makes the entire sky look grayscale. Look at that. I don't know if you guys can see this on your monitors, and if YouTube compression has completely killed it, but basically a lot of those orange lights, they still are there, but the white lights really come and stand out. So you can see that Haneda basically looks like a bunch of white lights now, instead of the orange lights you guys were seeing with the other presets that I was showing you guys. The clouds also look pretty much gray, and the sky, at least in this section right here, also looks gray. So it's a very, very muted color preset. Now, once again, in stark contrast to this, color profile 5 is extremely warm. So there you go. Now, this of course takes after color profile 2, like I was showing you guys before, but once again, it's an extremely warm preset. So this is the first time that I actually dialed the temperature up of the screen instead of having it be down, and that's because it just gives me a bit of a different perspective for certain sunset and sunrise arrivals, especially in places like Mexico. If I want to record places in Central America, South America, this preset actually works pretty well because I think it captures the essence of those places very, very effectively. Now let's go ahead and give us more of a daytime kind of look at this, just so you guys can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is when the sun is, I guess, a little bit higher. You can see the blue is extremely accentuated, the vibrance and everything is extremely strong, and as you guys can see on the ground, the different features of the ground also looked sun-baked as compared to, you know, looking very nice and breezy and cool. So these are the settings and these are the numbers that I'm running here. Color, tint color is 0%, tint intensity is 0%, temperature is 0, vibrance is 18. Brightness and contrast, exposure set to 10%, contrast is set to 14%, highlights are set to 100%, and shadows are set to 24%. Once again, that shadow rule only gets broken for the previous filter. Gamma is also set to -18, just to give that darker, more punchier look as compared to, you know, brightening things up. Because just as a reference, I'll show you guys what happens if I increase the gamma. You see how that punchiness goes away? That's why I like to have it down to -18 for this particular preset. And finally, then you have the details here. Sharpen is set to 0%. I don't feel the need to use more sharpening after this is already so dark and punchy. Clarity is set to 58. HDR toning is set to 20%, and bloom is set to 15%. And that, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much wraps up all of the filters. Let me just show you what sunset looks like in this very, very quickly. So bear with me here. There is the sunset. Look at how bright and orange and just disgustingly eye-piercing that is. But when you're recording that sunset on the backdrop of an aircraft, you'll really notice some beautiful screenshots that come out of it for specific situations. Let me show you guys what the night looks like. You'll see the orange being extremely accentuated there. You can see how every single one of those street lights is giving off so much energy. It looks almost like an eyesore after some of the profiles that we've just looked at, but it has its place once again. And I would encourage you guys to try out all of these filters for yourselves before making up your own mind about which one you want to rock every single day. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of our video today, covering all of the Nvidia filters that I personally have been using for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and now adapted for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 as well. You guys have been asking me for this video for a long time, and I will continue making more videos like this so long as you guys show a little bit of support by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, becoming a member for more live stream privileges that are going to be coming on the channel very shortly, as well as other perks that you will find down there. On top of this, of course, if you guys have any questions, put it down in the comment section below, not just for me, but also for other people to help you guys out. There's some experts in the community that I'm sure will flock to this video at some point and will be very, very happy to help you guys out if I can't get to your questions. I do have a day job, so it sometimes becomes a little hard to do everything all at once, but hopefully this video did help you guys out, and do let me know down in the comment section below what other Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 content you want to see as well. With that all said, guys, thanks for watching and thanks for flying by.